Alright, greetings once again to Better Picks. Today we're going to be talking around the hue, saturation and luminance adjustments that you can find in Adobe Camera Raw. Now, while these adjustments aren't adjustments that I find I use a lot, when I need them they really do come in handy, so they're definitely worth being aware of and thinking about how they might help your workflow. So I'm going to select 3 images just in Adobe Camera Bridge and use those 3 images as examples, as they have different colors in them, and they'll certainly help to demonstrate the options that you have available to you. So I'm just going to select these 3 images, right click and open in Adobe Camera Raw. Excellent. So within the Adobe Camera Raw workspace, if we head up to our tools across the top right hand side, you can see the 4th one from the left is the HSL, or Hue, Saturation and Luminance Adjustment. So I'm just going to click on that one, and you can see that we've got 3 options there: Hue, Saturation and Luminance, and a whole bunch of sliders just below. We're going to start off with the Hue option. As you can see, there's some really lovely colors in this image, and I'm going to start with the green because the green is quite pronounced. Now, if I go up to the green slider and I click and drag that slider to the left, you can see that the color of the green is starting to match the color on the left hand side of that slider, which is more of a yellowy, almost mustard color, I guess, for want of better words. And if we slide that to the opposite end, you can see we get a more intense green, which is becoming very unrealistic to what you would probably find in nature. However, if we just go back to 0 to our original image, you can see that if we just give it a little bit of a boost to the right, it does increase the intensity of that green color. As with any adjustment, I always recommend to increase or use the adjustment very slowly, to the point where you get the effect that you're looking for. Now, that might be a realistic effect, as I'm going for with this nature image, or it might be an unrealistic effect. It really just depends on what you want to achieve with your images. But the approach that I tend to take is to just hover around roughly where I'm getting the effect that I want, and then just refine your adjustments to the point where you get the outcome that you're after. If we move down to this next image, this is a Rainforest Image, and you can see there's a lot of green in this image, a little bit of yellow as well, with a little bit of sunshine that's shining through up above. So again, if we make adjustments to the greens, we can see when we adjust that hue adjustment to the left and then to the right, the profound effect that it's having on this Rainforest image. It really is quite an amazing effect. So that's quite interesting. If we go down to the bottom image, we've again got a greeny sort of blue ocean, and if we go down one option to the aqua, you can see that the aqua down the bottom, when slid to the left, will turn those aqua sort of colors into more of a green, but if we go to the right, it will turn them into more of a blue. So if you have an ocean, for example, with this one, if we just go back to the original image where the water looks a little bit green and you want to give it a little bit more of a blue tinge, then that's a great way to do it. The nice thing about this is, as you are selecting each of the color channels or sliders in the hue, the adjustments are only affecting that color. You can see it's not affecting the color of the beach at all. It's not affecting the color of the rocks at all. It's not affecting even the green down here at all. In fact, if I go up to the green option and I slide that a little bit to the right, then we're going to get a more intense green color. If I slide it to the left, it's going to remove that intensity of green color. So you can see how it's only affecting the specific color channel that you're choosing to work with. So that's a great example of the hue sliders being used. Moving back up to this image of the flowers with the branches and the bee in the middle there, we can also adjust sometimes. We can see that sometimes we need to adjust 2 color sliders in order to have an effect on a particular color within the image. Now, these flowers aren't a particular color if we look at specifically colors on these sliders, and whereas what you'll find is that they're kind of made up of two colors, I would say closer to the purple and the magenta. So if I slide both the purple and the magenta to the left, you can see that we're starting to see a shift in that color. If I take those sliders all the way to the right, then it's actually affecting the whole image, but we can certainly see a shift in the color there as well. And if I hit default, we can see the original image that we had. Now, it's not as big a change as the green that we saw, but it's still certainly a change. So if there's specific colors that you want to change within an image, it may be a combination of these options that are on the right hand side. Now if we move across to saturation, it works in very much the same way. So the green, the hue, now if we move across to saturation, it works very much in the same way. You have the same color channels available to you on the right hand side. The difference with saturation is that if you slide for example with this image, the green slider, because there's a lot of green in this image, you slide that to the left, it will reduce the color intensity and remove the saturation of color from the image. In this case, you can see I've slid the green option all the way to the left, and it's removed most of the green out of the image, which is quite amazing because it looks very, very different. If I go the other way and slide it to the right, then you can see it's drastically increasing the intensity of color in that green. Now, if I slide that all the way to the right, in my opinion, it's far too much. And you would find that if you printed this image with the current saturation level that you have, that it would be so intense that you would actually get blocking in the colors, which means you start to lose detail in the colors if you apply too much saturation. So it's always an adjustment to suit the image. Different colors are going to saturate differently. For example, reds will saturate quicker than greens and blues. So as always with any image, always only apply the adjustment to suit the image. Try not to go too far because it can become too obvious and have a negative effect on your image. If we move across to Luminance, which is the last option on the right hand side, Luminance is brightness and darkness. So in this situation, if we adjust the aquas, for example, which we saw earlier does have a great effect on this image, then the luminance slid to the left is going to make that part of the image darker. And the luminance slid to the right is going to make that part of the image brighter. So luminance is to do with brightness. So you have brightness control over those individual color channels that you have on the left hand side. As mentioned earlier, some color channels may require two sliders to work together. For example, in this image, the purples and magentas, you can see I've slid those all the way to the left and it has darkened those flowers. And if I slide them all the way to the right, it has brightened those flowers, or most of those flowers. Again, those are extreme examples. You want to make those adjustments to suit the image, which obviously requires a lot of practice and a bit of decision making and testing. If you're printing, for example, definitely worth printing out some test prints so that you can interact with the image a little bit differently. So that's just a quick overview of the hue, saturation and luminance. They're great controls. They're not controls that, as I mentioned, I use on every image, but when I need them, they come in really handy. So it's definitely worth knowing and understanding what effect they have on your images and how they work. Hope you've enjoyed this video and hope you have a great day.